And one thing that happened for me, and I think this can happen for anybody who chooses to do this, is I found an opportunity to speak with an organization that had 26 chapters in Ireland. And that one stage got me 19 other stages. And I was averaging on about 2 or 3 clients every time I spoke. So that's how my business went to $250,000.
Moira, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much, Chris.
So first, we're going to get right into results. And then we're going to hear a little bit more about your background story. 25K deal done. And it was in a short period of time. How long did it take?
Yeah, literally, she got one of the FlowChat messages, responded straight away. And she took a look at my wall on Facebook and said she loved what I was doing. I was like, let's have a call. We spoke the next day and she signed up to work with me. So I would say in the space of like, I don't know, 3 or 4 days.
This is really, really important. I want everyone listening, watching this to catch this, because what we focus on at FlowChat, and this is just such a great example, is finding more of the right people and sharing the right message, and that equals more connection and sales 100% of the time. So to be fair, no, is it always just that easy? Well, no. I mean, Moira, you've been doing what you've been doing for a long time, and we're going to get into that. You'll share some more of that very, very soon. But having your profile set up it sounds like was one of the really key first indicators. Can you walk us through kind of how you view your own Facebook profile?
So if somebody goes onto my Facebook, I want them to see very clearly who I am. If I have anything happening, there's a cover image, if there's a webinar or a challenge or something like that, I'll have a link like directly in my bio. And then I select all of the collection photos as well, so that there's authority there immediately as too. And plus I try and post twice a day and go live as much as possible, because so people can actually get a vibe of who I am that you can't do in a message, no matter how amazing our messages are, right? And I try and share as many results of my clients as possible. So if they did a quick flick through my feed, they would get to know me pretty quick.
You mentioned multiple key things in there. Let's start with the content. You said you were posting twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
What type of how do you look at posting content? Do you have like a filter for what type of content you're posting?
Yes, and usually I take inspiration from the connection calls I'm having and my client conversations. So I'm constantly getting questions and answering stuff for my clients, and I leverage that to create content constantly. If there's a win, I put it straight onto Facebook. I do like a big, like, hey, celebrate such and such because she just made 20K or whatever it is. And but really, I'm always looking to my perfect ideal clients. What are they going through? Because if they're going through that, then the people I want to attract are going to be going through that too.
Yeah, you want to pull out those emotions. That's really powerful. So twice a day, are you posting those manually? Are you using any like content tools to like schedule stuff, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, so I try and just write them, and then I have a VA to post them. I would possibly post it to Facebook myself and ask her to go in and then take my Facebook post and then repost it to other places. But or else I just write everything in a document. I try and keep all my social media posts in one document, so then I can recreate posts if I want to put things in groups as well. So I'll use the same post and then maybe change it up a bit, so I'm not posting the same stuff everywhere. So I could use maybe one post and create 3 or 4 posts out of that. Because I find when you start writing a post, you want to stick to one point, but inevitably more and more comes up the more you're writing. So I try and like park all those other pieces so that I can elaborate on those for other posts.
Very efficient, very smart. Some of the best marketers that I've learned from and heard from, they'll have one event, like you said, and there's so many different angles you can take on it. And rather than have to recreate all these different angles, you're like, here's the one thing, but here's multiple different ways to approach it and say it. And then that's what they're using. And it's actually more powerful because people need a little bit of repetition, but it still has that fresh feel. So I see kind of the system of how you're executing on that. I hope somebody just like wrote that down of what you were saying right there, because that one's really good. Okay, the other thing that you mentioned is like, link it in your bio on the Facebook profile. So but it seems like you don't always have a consistent one, like you're rotating that. Yeah. Tell us about that.
To be honest, I rotate everything, my profile image, my cover
Interesting.
photo, and the link. So if I don't have a webinar or a challenge coming up, I'll put a free resource. I rarely put a call booking link in, but I guess I could try that out too. So yeah, so it's just so it's not always the same, you know?
Yeah. So it's interesting in your Facebook profile and you said banner, like you're changing those two items as well.
Mm-hmm.
When you do that, I mean, it creates like a notification and another post. So I guess it's still like an easy like touch point for however the Facebook algorithm gods decide to distribute.
And it's purely
But,
algorithm based, you know, it's just like anything I can do to get to strengthen the algorithm muscle for Moira.
that there's a really good t-shirt in there somewhere about algorithm and Moira, you know, your ways. Thank you for hanging out on the Facebook profile. I know that a lot of people have questions around that particular thing, so I know that that's a strong value point. So first, it starts with having activity, reaching out to somebody. That led to them checking out the profile, commenting, responding there. That led to a further conversation within DM, which led to a phone call. Let's walk through. I know often people get very curious on the sales process itself. Do you like to do 1 call closes, 2 call closes? If you wouldn't mind, walk us through your sales process.
Yeah, I mean, ideally they book a call. So I mostly speak either at events or my own webinars or challenges. So it's rare that people are coming to me just from like they've just met me. But if they have just met me, then I'll schedule a call with them. And I really I just want to make a connection with them first. So just to see if this could be more, as opposed to like going straight into like, okay, let's, you know, figure out where you are. And then, I mean, I can pretty much tell fairly fast if this is somebody that I want to work with. And then I'll either say to them, look, we can dive deeper into this call right now if you would like. But I think the first and foremost, I help them in some way first. If they say something, I'm like, are you open to an idea on that? So I give them something like, oh my God, that's a great idea. And I say, look, we can do a deeper dive right now. If you've got time, I have time. And then I would dive into a more structured conversation then from there. And if not, I would reschedule the call. But I think if you actually help people, I think it's Frank Kearns that says, show that you can help people by actually helping them. It gets them more interested in hearing what else you've got to say.
Show them that you can help them by actually helping them. It's a very good line. That cadence, that pattern, it's working for you. And that's a very consistent pattern that works across all industries, which is diagnosing first is another, you know, interesting word to use. And then once you decide, hey, this is actually a good candidate that I can help and serve, let's have that structured conversation. I really want people to catch that because for some reason, Moira, I haven't figured this out yet. Okay. For some reason, imagine you and I are at a restaurant. You might have heard me talk on this briefly at different times. And we're having a meal. And I decide to get up and walk across the restaurant, interrupt somebody else's dining experience and say, I've got this great program that I thought you might be a good candidate for. And they look at you cross-eyed or angry or whatever. And you're like, socially, people understand that that's weird, but they don't understand socially that's what they're doing online.
Yeah.
And leading with that more so diagnosing the situation. And I'm using that word, just be specific, because I was scheduling a doctor's appointment yesterday. And I'm listening to because it was a particular treatment. And so I was listening to the sales process, the decision-making process. Anyone listening, watching, this is very, very important. What you said, Moira, will unlock so many things for the people listening, watching right now. They're asking key questions to qualify or rather disqualify people before they take them on. The procedure has a 90+% success rate, largely because they're very good at selecting the right people to treat. What you're describing is, I know that you're kicking butt and doing well. And I appreciate you sharing your time and taking your time to contribute and give to this community and society, or like our whole society. Maybe that's actually a cool phrase, but we always go with community. With our community here, why it's working for you and why it will also work for somebody else is if they catch that one point of, no, you're not begging for business. You're not on the side of the road begging for business. You're on a mission to disqualify people it's reverse, and that takes all the sales pressure. So you embody that so well, and I really want somebody to catch that today. So thank you for sharing. So that's your sales process. You diagnose who is the right fit, and you begin to work with them. I think this is the perfect point in the conversation for me to get to talk a little bit less, send it back to you. And do you mind sharing a little bit more of your story and the product and service you provide?
Yeah, sure. So I was a youth worker living in London. I moved back to Ireland in the middle of a recession, and I didn't know what I would do. And then I just started noticing that lots of businesses around here were struggling with sales. And I was just like, I'm pretty good at sales. So I literally started asking people if they needed help. And, fast forward a few months, I had a coaching business. Somehow I discovered speaking, and I felt like it was taking me a long time to attract clients just from conversations and networking events, because I live beside a mountain in the middle of nowhere. So my pool of possibilities was very shallow, and I was not an online marketer at all. So I stumbled upon an event. I spoke for 30 minutes. And I got 2 clients, and I got invited to speak at a national event that would have 200 people. And I was like, oh my God, that took me 30 minutes. I was like, I'm just going to speak. So I literally put my heart and soul into finding every single stage, room, group that I could speak in all over Ireland, not even virtually. Like, I was traveling all over the country. Wow. But it was rare that I would leave an event without 2 or 3 clients, sometimes as many as 10.
I'm so excited to unpack a few of the things you just said. Here's the first one. How did you go about choosing what rooms to speak in?
Yeah, well, firstly, it was like, where would I like to hang out? Because I think that I am my ideal client of a few years ago. So I kind of like, well, what are the kind of places? So I didn't overthink this, but I just found that everywhere I was interested in going, I was bumping into people. Then I had to take on the identity of I'm a female entrepreneur and a coach and stuff, which came with its own like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. Okay, so I'm going to go to entrepreneur events. So then I started Googling and finding female entrepreneur events. And one thing that happened for me, and I think this can happen for anybody who chooses to do this, is I found an opportunity to speak with an organization that had 26 chapters in Ireland. And that one stage got me 19 other stages. And I was averaging on about 2 or 3 clients every time I spoke. So that's how my business went to $250,000.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Plus, I had a whole lot of fun in the process.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So more huge takeaways here. Number 1, you had fun in the process. There are people don't hear this. They don't hear that there are multiple ways to acquire new customers. They think, I got to do it. I got to do cold calling. I got to do speaking. I got to do social media content. I got to do all of it all at the same time, Moira. And they hate all of it. What I know you know to be true is acquiring a new customer will cost both time and money. Pick anyone you want. My promise to you and everyone listening, watching, is it will cost you time and money. But each method, the different personality types will gravitate towards, some over the other. So I promise there is one that you can at least stomach and enjoy. You found one for you, which was speaking. And then you lean into it.
I was afraid to death of speaking, by the way. Everybody should know that, because speaking is the most feared thing after death. And I was like, literally, sometimes I'd speak on a stage, like feels like really outdated, like 6-7 years ago. But if I had a microphone in my hand, I would have to push it against my chin because my hand would be going like this. I'm not joking. And sometimes my voice was shaking, my legs were shaking, but I was there to do a job. So it was just like, and I did the best I could, and I just got better. So you get better at speaking by speaking, which is key to this. I did not stop. I made mistakes at events when the stakes were low. So then when big events came up, I had made all those mistakes. So I wasn't going to make those mistakes again. And I think sometimes when people think about speaking, they put people on pedestals and they think like, big, massive events with hundreds of people and things like that. And the reality is you're not ready for an event like that. And don't do an event like that if you haven't made mistakes in small rooms with 10 and 12 people, because that will save you hundreds of thousands if you do that. So that's what I would say if people are thinking of doing it. But these small rooms are gold mines.
Yeah.
You've got like captive audience of like 20, 30 people. 5 to 10 people want to have a call with you, you get a, good 40% conversion rate. It's just like, let's go.
Yeah, all day. So it's funny you're mentioning this because if we go to Instagram, if we go to other places in social, it's really not the celebrities that you want to target. It's really not the macro influencers that you want to. It's the micro influencers that you want to target. That 5 to 10,000 follower range, which is that smaller room, because there's a little bit more attention. There's more trust, there, and you can handle the volume, and it's a great stepping stone. So what you're saying, what you're sharing is gold, Moira. So I thank you for sharing some of these things. You get better at speaking through just speaking. You get better at doing your form of acquisition through just doing more of acquisition. And people largely underestimate what a lot of activity actually looks like. Oh, Chris, but I did 10 calls this week, I've done 20 calls in the sales process. And they look at me, I was like, wait. For my recent offer, I did over 1,000 one-on-one calls personally in a 7-month period before I felt like I really nailed it. And they're like, what? Is that a lot? There's people that look at me like, Chris, I do X amount of dials a day. I'm like, okay, well, touche. You got a good system, great work. My point is, it's very easy for anyone listening, watching, to underestimate the level of activity. Oh, it's easy for them. Look at how many reps they have. There's different skill level, but look at the activity. So I think what you're highlighting there is really important. Thanks for sharing that. So there's one more question around this. Hey, I started speaking. Walk through your sales process. How did you select the right room to be in? You said I'm serving where I was a few years ago. Very, very key. Typically, who's my ideal customer? It's usually your past self, because that's the person you know how to help the best, because you experienced it yourself. People go in circles and fill out 10-page reports when really it comes down to that's the answer. That's where they're going to land. I know. How did you go about putting together your presentations? What content were you talking about at these events that were drawn? Because you consistently were pulling people in. What you were saying was working. What were you saying?
Yeah. So when I did get somebody to help me create a high converting talk, because I was just like, I don't want to just get up and speak. I really want to do this. And the key to having the 5 things you need for a high converting talk: you need to have a powerful message. You need to have a content that converts. So you speak about the problem and the outcome. So you're constantly moving. Here's the problem. Here's the solution. So they're thinking, oh, I've got that problem. Oh, I want that outcome. So it's not about teaching. You can teach some, but mostly people want to know that you get them. So your content should really show them that you really understand them. You've been there, you have clients that have been there, and this is what their life looks like now. And then from there, you also need to have a compelling story. So your story should really be your story of how you discovered your strategy. So it's not your life story. So what was your journey from the moment you decided that you were going to do this thing till you had some success, or you created this system or whatever. And then you need to have a good offer. So you need to have a good invitation. And a good invitation involves giving people a reason to get on a call with you, not, hey, have a call with me. So I used to offer people, these days I'd offer people a 6-figure speaker roadmap session. So if they get on a call with me, they'll walk away with a roadmap of how they create 6 figures from speaking every time. And then if they want to implement that with me, they hire me, right? And then obviously you need to be able to close a sale. So that's all you need. But that is a 6-figure speaking system that you can that works virtual stages, live stages, paid stages, all over.
So powerful. And it sounds like that's close to is that the offer you're still running?
Well, these days I still speak, but I'm more about creating my own stage. So I do a free webinar to a paid challenge. So I'm putting people into a paid challenge these days. So I'm creating my own audience and building my own audience. I will still speak, but I'm less wanting to do that these days because I really want to perfect this. So this was the other thing I was going to say about, the way I'm using FlowChat as well, is that, all these messages that are going out, I'm wanting to get people on as many quick 10, 15-minute calls with me, because they're buying VIP tickets to spend a week with me. And then there is no sales call, but at the end of that week, they understand my system. They're completely bought. I don't even have to sell them. So that's what I'm really focused on doing now. So and that's more important to me than just, I'll still get on a call, but that's the way I want to grow my business. I want to be able to do one monthly conversion event.
It's a powerful pattern right now. There's, like we all get targeted with the lead generation advertisements on YouTube and Facebook and everywhere. and one of them is around events, virtual or live. There's models for both, but it's basically kind of, if I can get someone here and you have that indoctrination more, they learn so much in a leveraged way. And then outside of that, you get, X percent that they've been qualified and or disqualified, and the ones that make it, are end up being a good fit. I like it. I like it. If people are leaning into this conversation, being like, oh my gosh, I think I'm like Moira. I think speaking is a direction I want to go. I love the VIP thing she just said, but I have no idea how she's putting that together, and I'd love to learn more. Where's the best place to reach out to you and communicate?
Yeah, totally. I'm on Facebook all day, every day.
There, the Facebook hustle's real. Reach out to Moira on Facebook. We'll have some links in the description to make that easier for you. Moira, before I let you go here, there's one question that I like to ask everyone at the end, and essentially I'm going to give you a second to think here, but it's a why question. Why do you do what you do? Why speaking? Why be an entrepreneur? Why provide a product, create a product and service, and why serve other people with that? And here's why I ask that, why it's interesting to me personally. Musicians, artists, actors, athletes, entrepreneurs, people that are creating, and they're what's created from the heart is felt by the heart. They're putting service into the world and making an effort to serve other people is a very vulnerable place. And that place of leadership, that place of personal growth, and dealing with all different types of people that lean into that are very odd to me. I'm one of those people. I'm trying to figure out why I do what drives me all the time too. So anyone that strives for performance and serving other people in that way, I'm very fascinated to understand more of what makes them tick. So Moira, what makes you tick? Why do all this?
Well, growing up, the two words I heard the most, Chris, were shut up, stop talking. Like I was literally known as the girl who talked too much, and I got into trouble for it constantly at school. And I was told I'd never make anything in my life if all I wanted to do was talk. So when I started my business, understandably, the last thing I thought about doing was speaking. And obviously I thought I was actually cursed in some way because all I did want to do was talk. But starting my business, realizing that speaking is actually a gift. And I don't particularly think that I'm the best, but we are all gifted with our voice. And I think it's foolish not to use your voice in your business, because everything is your voice. Your messages are your voice. Your copywriting is your voice. It's all your voice. So why not use it as much as possible? And I find that the women that come to me, and men, that often they have a similar story. If not, they were shamed for something else they were great at when they were growing up. And then my mission is to not have people wait until they're like 60 or 70 years old when they have the confidence and they don't care anymore to then realize that they should have done that. Because I saw that with my own mother. She was she was 71 when she passed away. And it was only in her late 60s that I could actually see her confidence. And she was so smart. Like she was so smart growing up, but it wasn't good for women to be smart when she was growing up. So it was drummed out of her, and she was told to keep quiet as well. And I just don't want to see that happen to other people, because we all have a message and story inside us that the world needs to hear, and we can have a lot of fun and make a lot of money in the process.
I love it. That was an awesome answer, Moira. I really appreciate you taking so much time with our audience today. Any last words or thoughts?
Well, if anybody is inspired now to start speaking, I dare you to send out a few messages to people and say, do they have any speaking opportunities? And I guarantee you'll be booked within a week if you do that.
Boom, challenge set. I love it. Go send those messages, everyone listening, watching. And we also appreciate you, audience listening, watching. This is the place where we continue to bring real entrepreneurs getting real results, just like you, just like me, that are also a little bit crazy as well. But hey, can I just say that I really appreciate you guys. I'm in a lot of masterminds and I've done a lot of programs, but your sessions are amazing. Like the coaching is amazing. Sean's amazing. Ashley, everybody, I'm really excited to be part of this. So thank you too. I'm very grateful for those kind words, Moira. I appreciate you today.